Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Em and today I'm going to be showing you how I sketch and study still life with color pencil. And I'm going to be doing a skull to start off with. So let's just nervously hesitate a little bit, build it up too much in our heads. Perfect. Now let's draw a circle. Okay, and now let's actually block out where we want the image to be. I like to draw borders of where I'm going to be working within. I find that really helps my brain to measure out where everything should be in the perspective, and then I kind of find the middle, and then I find out where the shadows are in reference to the middle, and then I sort of go from there. And I just, because the darkest parts are the easiest to see, I find those are the easiest ones to go off of when you're trying to replicate a reference picture. And the more points you have of reference as you go on and you're sketching, as long as you keep it loose at the start and just get those points in where you can keep going off of and building off of, then you can get into more detail as you go on. And that's kind of how I approach stuff. So I just kind of get the general shape and then I put in the more detailed shadows and just kind of where some of the more nuanced pieces are and try to go from there. And I try to keep it pretty simple at the start because there's no reason to go into too much detail right now because I'm going to use my color pencils for all of the detail and stuff. So really I just want to get where everything is supposed to be. The teeth I had quite a hard time with. I don't know why, just the perspective was kind of, I just didn't feel that I was getting it right, but so it took a little bit, but finally I did it, I guess. So now I'm just toning the whole image of the skull with this yellowy kind of tannish color. And then I'm just going over lightly the shadows with my first shadow color, and it's like a nice green. I wanted to make it a little bit rainbowy, just like how I normally do things where I like to have a little bit of color peeking through, but I still did want to keep it quite true to the reference. And the technique I'm using with my color pencils today is going to be the same kind of thing I was doing last week. If you saw my video from last week, I was studying some fall leaves and I used the edge of the pencil to sort of create this line. And because I'm using it on its flat side, I'm doing it right here where it's like flat to the paper. I'm not using the point of the pencil. I'm able to blend it out really well when I do that, so it creates a cool look, and at least I really like it. And I'm using a Royal Talens sketchbook, by the way, and I just find that the color pencil looks so good. The grain and texture of the paper mixed with the pencils, I find that really helps with the technique, and I'm just enjoying it so much, and I'm having so much fun doing it. So I wanted to try and explore what I was doing last week with the leaves and continue to do that because until I get bored of it. And try it with some other objects like this skull and a teapot that you will see very soon. So I'm just kind of slowly going in. I really don't do skulls very often. It's kind of hard. I find it hard to do. So if you do a lot of skulls, you're brave. And you're brave if you don't. They just like have so many, they look easy, but they have so many things to them. Like there's little cracks in them. There's all kinds of little crevices and holes. And I'm like, what's happening? And I also don't really like to think about skulls because whenever, even when I was drawing this, I'm like, who owned this skull? Is this a real skull? There's teeth missing. It makes me think about like that poor person didn't have any teeth, or were those removed? What happened? So for those reasons, skulls kind of freak me out. And I know that's like such a babyish thing, but that's what it is. They kind of freak me out. I don't know. Anyways, whatever, it doesn't matter. We're drawing one today. It's good for anatomy and it's good for practice to draw them. Actually, if you want to start drawing faces, you got to draw some skulls. That's what I believe. And I do want to get back into drawing some heads, and I am nervous and avoiding it. You'll probably see some in January because that's usually, we've got too many things to think about right now. So it's kind of coming together. I'm feeling really good about it at this point because I sort of got a little bit of shadows going on at the top. I like what's happening. I like what's happening in the nose and especially underneath the nose where the teeth connect. I really like the shadows in there. And the only part I felt that I had a bit of a hard time with was underneath the eye that's in the most focus, the sort of center of the picture. I was kind of noodling around with that quite a bit, but that's to be expected. I did the same thing with the color pencils that I was telling you about at the start with the sketch, the same kind of method of let's just do what we can see first and then let's look further into it. So let's start with the shadows and the darkest parts. I know those dark parts are there because I can see them very clearly. So let's just look quickly, look at the darkest parts, put those in with whatever dark color we want to start with. We're going to still use a light hand at the start. And actually, mostly through the whole thing, I use a light hand and I just do a bunch of layers. And then just start to go with sort of more nuanced colors that are more similar to the skull. So, like a kind of range of yellows and browns I used for those sort of lighter shadows and a little bit less harsh parts. Just so that when you look more at the picture, that's where more stuff starts to come out that you can see. I hope that makes sense. And I know I always say that. And that's because I never know if I'm making sense. That's my cross I gotta bear. But it does make me really happy when I say I don't know if I'm making sense, and then later I read the comments and people did understand me, and I feel very good about myself after. I'm not saying do that, but like if you did understand, it would really help me if you did say and tell me and validate me. So anyways, in other news, I just finished watching the Penguin series on HBO, and it is chef's kiss. I really, really enjoyed it. I really, really liked it. I thought it was very good. And it was just a breath of fresh air. And I was just so happy to have a little piece of Batman at this time of year. You know, it just seems right. So definitely made me want to watch Batman Returns, though. And to me, that's a Christmas movie. Yeah, it's a Christmas movie. I can feel confident in saying that. Batman Returns is a Christmas movie. The one with Michelle Pfeiffer and Danny DeVito. It's set at Christmas time. Oh, and Christopher Walken, obviously. Well, and Michael Keaton. Actually, Michael Keaton is the most obvious one. And guess what? He can't move his neck in that costume whatsoever either. I don't know what is with these guys, and making the Batman costumes just the most inaccessible things I've ever seen in my life. Like, Alfred, what are we doing? How do you fight crime in this way? I don't know. I'll keep asking that question. Anyways, for the skull, I like to do light layers of everything. I'm very light-handed when I'm doing all of these colors, and I think that's what makes it work. A lot of people ask about applying the colors and stuff like that, and I just go extremely light-handed. And that way, on the paper, there's more space for other colors to go on. It takes a long time, but once you do it for a while and get used to it, it really doesn't take that long anymore. Like, it used to take me a long time to complete these drawings, but now it's a lot easier because I've gotten used to it and I figured out what colors kind of work for me. And that's why I always use Holbein, because I'm used to this set and now I kind of know what I'm doing with it. But you don't have to use Holbein. That's just the kind of pencils that I'm using. And here I thought I was done, but I actually wasn't. I wanted to add a little bit more warmth into the front of it just there, and then I was actually done. So yeah, you can use any color pencil you want. You just have to get used to them and, you know, use them a bit, and then you're going to figure out what works for you. And the most important thing is to just be light-handed and be patient, because it's going to take a while, but it's worth it, in my opinion. So now I'm sketching out the teapot in a similar fashion, but because the teapot has a lot of reflections on it and not as many shadows, I'm still just kind of outlining where the dark parts are and also where the light parts are and where those kinds of things go. So it's just a little bit different approach than the skull because it's a very shiny object and it's going to be a little complicated for my brain to understand. So we get to go through that challenge, kind of relive that together here and now. I actually love the color of it. I think it's so cool and I really liked it. When I first saw this reference image, I was like, oh yes, I have to do this. And of course, I'm going to get a chance to use my neon orange, which you know I'm going to take that chance every time I get it. And there's actually quite a bit of purple in it too, which is really interesting. The more I looked at this teapot, I just loved it. And I thought it fit really well on the page too, because the skull, kind of old teapot, I don't know, just those two together, it was doing it for me. So I started by taking what I could very obviously see, again, similar to the skull, but it's with colors now instead of shadows. I was sort of just seeing that there was a lot of purple. So I was like, let me take this lilac color and just put the purple down. Oh yeah, and I did do a sort of wash of a yellowish color just to tone the whole image as well at the start. And I kind of just built up colors from there. I was pretty nervous because it's such like a smooth surface. I wanted to get all the angles right and make sure everything, I kind of had to keep checking in and making sure that everything was looking okay. And that involves walking away sometimes or taking it to a mirror and looking at it in the mirror just to check that the perspective is still looking okay. And I guess in this reference image, there was some trees. I think this picture was taken outside, of course, because of the big shining light on it. And it appears that there's some trees in the shining onto the reflection of the pot. So I had to take some green and kind of and kind of draw those trees. So once I got going, this was actually really, really fun to do. I was quite intimidated by it at the start, but by the end, I was just having so much fun. Like once I was at this point, I kind of knew where everything was supposed to be. And I was in the stage where I was just, okay, what color do I see there? I'm going to put that in. Okay, this needs to be a little, Jesus Christ. This color needs to be a little bit darker here. Let's add some more shadow there. And the reflection was really, really fun to do. And so I just had a blast. Like, I really, really enjoyed it. And I hope you enjoy watching it, frankly, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, my point is that I was happy that it took me a while to do this teapot. And I took my time with it. And frankly, it made it really fun. And I don't want to spoil next week for you, but I actually had like a really hard time doing. I decided to take this sort of blendy pencil color technique thing that I've been doing and take it further by doing sort of a scenery and some kind of landscapey sort of stuff from reference photos. And that's what I've been working on this week currently while I'm doing this voiceover. And I just had so kind of a hard time, but now I looked back at it and I'm like, actually, I love it. So we'll be interested to see how that turns out because I'm like halfway done it right now. So we'll see how it goes. And anyways, in the reflection, I just kept doing the purple to darken that purpley area where what's reflected in the teapot is the sky, that part. It was purple, but I kept going over top to darken with an orangey or a yellowy color, this yellow color I have, and then going again with the purple. And I just slowly darkened it with layers to try and get the same effect I was seeing in the photograph and to keep that coppery look. Well, I guess, yeah, it's a copper teapot, I'm pretty sure. So I just wanted to make sure that really came across by adding some highlights of my neon orange. It really came in handy for this drawing because it just adds that like really, really bright kind of reflected light color in certain areas. And I did like to take my mechanical eraser, which is a really fine point eraser thing, and went over some spots with that as well, you'll see soon, to make sure that it was kind of had the light shining in the right areas. So I did have fun with it. I think it looks pretty cool and realistic, and I'm very proud of it. I don't usually do stuff like this, so I was kind of surprised. I was like surprisingly having fun with it, let's say. Did I ever tell you guys that remember when I used to be really scared of my neon orange because the Prismacolor stopped selling individual colors? And I found, see, look, I'm jazzed there. That was me with the hands. I was jazzed. So with the neon orange, I found two of them. As I unpacked when I moved, I found two extra ones. So we're pretty much okay with that. But when those two go, what will I do? So I did have a bit of I still am like worried about it and I sort of used it a little less. So I'm going to make sure to, but it's okay. Holbein does have an orange we can work with. So I found an alternative already. We're okay. It's just that the Prismacolors are more affordable and frankly, sell individual ones. Oh my God, I actually can't stress this enough that how much Prismacolor has pissed me off with that decision. And I feel like I'm being shrinkflated. Not me personally, but the pencils. To me. I feel like it's a personal attack to me, I mean. All the other pencil companies sell them individuals. It's professional. That's how you professionally do it. I'm never going to get sponsored by them. Not going to see one single promo pack, I don't think, from them. Anyway, so now I'm just kind of fixing up the trees. I didn't want to go too much detail of the trees, but I still wanted to show that like kind of what it was and just to the best of my ability sort of darken the edges of the dark areas and where the shadows were. So I'm almost done the teapot, but I was avoiding doing the handle because it confused me from the reference. I just couldn't get, I don't know if my eyes like couldn't see it properly. I couldn't really tell exactly what was going on there. So I sort of just guessed. See, there's the mechanical pencil part. I really like that part. So yeah, it's a wooden handle it's got, but there might be some sort of metal on the ends of the handle holding it there. I think it's still copper, so I kind of just guessed and did to the best of my ability. But if I don't really actually know what's happening, that's like harder, obviously, to do. So hopefully that part looks okay. And yeah, what else is there to say? I love Batman, mad at Prismacolor still, forever. Just trying to sort of dissociate from reality, really, by doing some sketches that I find challenging. Oh, and just to finish off, I'm taking my very dark color here. I believe it was like burnt umber or something like that. And I just did the darkest parts. And I kind of just, yeah, I did the handle to the best of my abilities. I didn't really know what I was looking at. Sometimes my eyes have a hard time focusing. There was also some people doing work where I live and like right next to me, literally physically next to me. And so it was really weird and I felt weird. So I kind of wanted it to be done. So yeah, I think after adding those very, very dark shadows, just even if it's the tiniest bit, it makes such a difference on a shiny object, truly. And yeah, I felt that it also needed this little extra piece. I wish I added a little bit more into the reflection because I felt like the original had a bit more shininess to it, but hey, it was my first try. But I'm happy for my first try. I like it. Here are the two finished drawings. I'm super happy with them. I sprayed them with fixative. And here's a little skull I did again, the same skull, just a little pencil practice. Okay, see you next week. Bye.